When you think about really innovative companies, 3M, it's got to be on that list, right? For decades, they were the poster child for creativity, just pumping out thousands of products. But here's the kicker. What happens when that incredible culture of invention slams right into the corporate demand for, ruthless efficiency? Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, it's a great question, right? It really gets to the heart of how big companies innovate. Stuff like that doesn't just happen by accident. No way. It takes a very specific, carefully nurtured environment. So what we're going to do here is break down exactly how 3M built that special sauce. And, well, what happened when it all got put to the ultimate test.
See, the secret to 3M's success, it wasn't just about hiring a bunch of geniuses. It was about building an entire culture that basically gave them permission to experiment, to fail, and yeah, every once in a while, to just stumble upon something amazing. But, and this is a big but, that amazing creative freedom was on a collision course with an equally powerful force, that relentless corporate drive for process and control.
All right, so let's kick things off by really digging into the fundamental challenge right at the center of this whole story.
Okay, this really frames the central conflict perfectly. On one side, you've got the very soul of the old 3M, this culture that just celebrated creativity and people from different departments just talking and working together. And then on the other side, you have this pressure that every big company feels, right? The need to be lean, predictable, super efficient. That right there is the innovator's paradox.
So to really get a handle on 3M's culture, we first need to define the big idea that powered the whole thing. Intrapreneurship. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically this: being an entrepreneur, but inside a big company. You're on the payroll. It's for those employees who just don't accept the status quo. They're actively looking for new ideas, new inventions, right from within the system. It's an incredibly powerful idea, but, and this is key, it absolutely needs the right conditions to actually work.
And this quote, man, it just nails why those conditions are so rare. Gifford Pinchot points out that your typical corporate ladder, it often rewards loyalty, playing the game, more than it rewards genuine, risky innovation. So if you want real invention, you need a system that actually rewards the results and is okay with the risk it takes to get them.
So the big question is, how do you build a system like that? Well, a couple of academics, Prahalad and Hamel, came up with this fantastic analogy. They said, think of a company like a tree. Its real strength, what they call its core competence, it's not the individual products, nope, it's the trunk. And for 3M, that big, strong trunk was its incredible ability to innovate. That core strength is what supports everything else. All the different business units, those are the branches, and then the thousands of products, which are like the leaves.
And look, we know this wasn't just some feel-good corporate retreat philosophy. Why? Because it passed 3 really critical tests. 1, it opened the door for 3M to get into tons of different markets. 2, customers could clearly see the benefit, they loved the innovative products. And 3, this is the big one, it was almost impossible for competitors to copy. You just can't go out and buy a culture like that. You have to build it. Okay, so what were the actual specific rules 3M used to make this amazing culture a reality? Let's break down their playbook.
15%. This number, it's literally legendary in the business world. It might just look like a simple percentage, but for the innovators at 3M, it meant something so much more valuable. It meant freedom. This was the famous 15% option. It was an official company policy that let technical staff spend up to 15% of their work week on, well, whatever projects they wanted, whatever they found interesting. Think about that. It was a direct investment in just happy accidents, in serendipity. It was a bet that if you give brilliant people time to play, they'll create brilliant things. And guess what? It's exactly how the Post-it note was invented. But here's the thing. Total freedom without any accountability, that can just lead to chaos, not innovation. So to balance things out, 3M had another really important number, another rule designed to make sure all that amazing creativity actually led to real-world results.
And that was the 30% rule. This is what created a constant, hungry demand for new ideas. The goal was simple. 30% of each division's revenue had to come from products that were introduced in just the last 4 years. So see, it wasn't enough to just play around and experiment. That experimentation had to pay off with real products that people would buy. It kept the whole innovation engine fired up and focused.
And this really shows you the whole support system they built. I mean, it wasn't just about giving people free time. 3M also provided seed capital. actual money for promising ideas. They had an official tolerance for failure, meaning a project could totally flop and it wouldn't tank your career. They offered real financial rewards when things did succeed. And on top of all that, they backed it up by consistently spending a huge chunk of sales on R&D. It was a complete ecosystem all built for one thing: innovation.
And for decades, this whole ecosystem was the engine driving 3M's growth. It worked. But in the early 2000s, it ran into its biggest threat ever. And that threat didn't come from a competitor. It came from inside the company, from a new philosophy right at the very top. So in 2001, a new CEO, James McNerney, came on board. And he brought with him a system called Six Sigma. Now, Six Sigma is this very data-heavy system designed to stamp out defects, get rid of variables, and just make everything super efficient, almost like a math problem. And for manufacturing, it's amazing, incredibly effective. But that intense focus on process, on predictability, on control, it doesn't always play nicely with the messy, unpredictable, chaotic nature of true breakthrough innovation. And the numbers? Well, the numbers don't lie. You remember that 30% rule we talked about? For years, 3M was hitting that target, no problem. But after Six Sigma came in, the revenue from new products took a nosedive. It dropped all the way down to just 25%. It really looks like that focus on efficiency was, squeezing the life out of that creative energy. Now, to be fair, the goal here probably wasn't to just kill creativity. I mean, McNerney himself said he wanted to funnel it, to make it more structured, more predictable. The idea was to bring some order to all that creative chaos. But man, that raises a massive question, doesn't it? Can you really put a structure on true breakthrough innovation? So what does all this mean? What's the big takeaway from the whole 3M story? This diagram of 3M's own strategies kind of says it all. A successful company can't just be one thing. You have to compete on cost sometimes. Other times, it's all about having unique features, what we call differentiation. And sometimes you need a laser focus on a tiny market. It is a constant, nonstop balancing act. So the story of 3M, it's not really about one idea being good and the other being bad. It's about that endless tension between these forces that are both competing, but also totally necessary. Which really just leaves us with this one final question to chew on. In that constant battle between the freedom you need for creativity and the discipline you need for efficiency, does one side always have to win? Or maybe, just maybe, the real secret to long-term success isn't about picking a winner at all, but about mastering that incredibly difficult art of the balancing act itself.